and the after effects with the family and everything. And I know you might be asking, why am I here in front of you guys today? It's because I would love to see our state legislatures get tough on this aspect right here. If you'll read the laws about drug dealers giving or selling dope to an individual, and that person is not aware of what's in the dope. Now, we all know dope is bad, correct? We all know that it is bad. But when you buy, if you're addicted to an opiate, and you buy an opiate, and then you all of a sudden find out you've just ingested not only an opiate, but you've ingested an opiate with fentanyl in it that will stop your heart in about 15 to 20 minutes, and you didn't know it, that's poison. And they are poison laws. If you were to come home tonight and a friend of yours brought you a pizza and your friend put arson in your pizza and your friend sat there and watched you eat it, there's a law against that. That's poisoning and that's murder. But there's nothing on the books that keeps a drug dealer from selling poison and they ingesting it because they did an illegal act. The person who bought the drugs did an illegal act. They cannot be charged. I've spoke with the solicitor about this. I had a meeting with him about 2 months ago. He said there's nothing on the books that we can do about it. What I'm asking, the reason why I'm here to ask you gentlemen is to please vocally support our state legislatures to revise or introduce legislation that would come up with an idea or a plan to get tougher on these drug dealers. These drug dealers are in a sense winning right now because of this situation. And I personally, as a citizen and as a law enforcement officer, I cannot stand back and not say anything or do anything. And because you gentlemen represent the people of Oconee County, I'm simply asking that since you are direct elected officials, I want to start with you gentlemen to ask and to vocalize and say, hey, we're tired of it in Oconee County. You know, none of us have really said anything about it, and it's time we start. And that's what I'm here today. I was wanting to come tonight, and I was wanting to introduce it's just a support letter, and I've already had it written out. Of course, I'm sure that it's not worded properly, that maybe you might want to approve it or change it or whatever, but here's what I'm asking for you gentlemen to support and maybe talk to our state legislatures. This is just a template I've got right here. We, the members of Oconee County Council, acknowledge that our county is facing an opioid overdose epidemic. Heroin and fentanyl are becoming a mainstream drug throughout our county. We have had 8 drug-related deaths this year in Oconee County and 24 overdose deaths in 2019. Although we have had dozens to survive through emergency medicine, we need to address this serious issue. We respectfully ask that our state legislators revise or introduce legislation to battle the drug dealers that are selling this poison to our people. Currently, the laws are vague, and a revisement would be greatly appreciated. And this is just a template. If you guys, if y'all would approve to send some type of a proclamation to our state legislators and have something similar to this sent to them with your signatures on it saying that you wish that they would come up with something, at least try to come up with something. And so that was what I was going to introduce to you guys tonight. But I would introduce it right now.
Introduce it now. We'll have to give it to Amanda. We'll run it by the county attorney. And
I didn't know if it would be a vote or...
I'll make a motion that the letter of support be brought to the August meeting to be prepared by then for full council, so we can have something in front of us by that August meeting in regards to that.
Okay.
Second. All in favor?
May we get a second, please?
He seconded.
I second.
Sorry.
Made the motion.
Thank you.
Mr. McCall seconded.
All right. Keep going, David.
My second thing that I want to talk to about is, and it'll be brief. all across the country now, we see what's going on across our country with the lawlessness that's going on. Unfortunately, there has been talk about changing, revising, or removing qualified immunity, and we all know what qualified immunity is for law enforcement. And unfortunately, some of our local folks have even mentioned something about changing it. I don't know what the details of changing it or stuff like that, but we cannot get rid of qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is the one little thin shield that law enforcement officers have to protect them as they go out day by day to try to do their job. Just imagine, okay, everybody's watched TV and you've seen all the attorney commercials. If you've been hurt in an accident, call Hawk Law. You've seen those commercials on TV. Could you imagine if call 1-800-HAWK Law if David McMahon put my handcuffs on too tight? Or David McMahon didn't give me a drink of water while I was arrested? Or David McMahon didn't, he jerked me too hard out of the vehicle and I'm gonna sue him, I'm gonna sue him, I'm gonna sue him. Could you imagine what that would do to law enforcement officers with all these frivolous lawsuits that's going on? First of all, you wouldn't have any more law enforcement officers. Who would be crazy enough to want to be a police officer? If you knew every minute of every day you might be sued for something that's frivolous. So again, I have prepared, if you guys would permit it, prepared a little letter to just show our U.S. congressman, please do not accept any changes in qualified immunity. And if they are changes, that could be very little, because I'm personally not going to work everything I've worked hard all my life for to be sued and lose everything because I put somebody's handcuffs on too tight. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And that was my second request tonight. I'm at a point in my life where the sheriff knows me. I speak vocally on things, and I can't sit back and just let everybody else talk for me. It's a problem in Oconee County, and we as Oconeans, we need to tell our representatives in Columbia and Washington that we're not going to put up with this. And that's where I'm here today. And that was my second request, is maybe to come up, if you guys would like to vote on it,
Yeah.
and come up with a solution to just encourage our legislators to stand by police officers and deputies.
Well, if that's, I make the motion that we send a letter to the Congress stating this. It needs to be done. And I talked to the sheriff about this. For anybody out there listening or anybody in the room that thinks for 1 minute that these guys are just riding around, got an easy job. The sheriff said he would not object. Any council member wants to ride along, run to the sheriff or with the deputy and see what these guys go through. I guarantee you one thing, you get in that car after hearing that radio for about 15 minutes, the only thing you want to do is get out. Their job is unbelievable. I thought running a tugboat with listening to Marine radio was bad. No, I got an easy job. So that's out there. The sheriff has already said if any council member he wants to ride along with a deputy, contact him, he'll arrange it.
I second the motion.
All in
I guess,
favor?
hang on, the biggest thing, qualified immunity is not just for police, it's for fire and government officials, period.
That's correct.
So, honestly, as we're all attempting to do our jobs properly, that's what qualified immunity protects.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm all for that for police, and this council's done a great job at continuing to increase pay in officers, which has been a great thing. That's been missed for a long time, and hopefully we continue to push for that. So,
Yes, sir.
and
Thank you.
thank each of you for what you do. It is a hard job.
Thank you.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, David, if you pass those to Amanda, she'll pass them to the county attorney, because we got to get it all in the legal terms.
And that will be on the August 18th agenda for council approval.
Okay,
Copies of the letter or a draft of the letter will be prepared for you at that time to vote on, okay?
thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
David, what else you got?
That's it. I appreciate y'all listening to me.
All right, the next, we can run on time. The next issue up is discussion with Mike on legal issues related to law enforcement operations. Sheriff?
All right, Mr. McCall, you'll have to help me a little bit. I know we talked some, but any particular legal issues that we were?
Well, we talked about, you and I talked on the phone the other day about qualified immunity. We've already covered about the magistrate's issues.
Yeah.
What we talked about, we talked about the shortage in staff. We on the other phone the other day. Just, the election's over. Now you cut the gloves off now. How many we need? We wasted money. Here's the thing, I'm bringing this up, Mike. We wasted money on everything else but the core values. The core values are law enforcement and public safety right over there behind the man. You two guys, you're the top. Everybody else, the bicycle race, the zoning, everything else is just in the background. What else do you need?
Lord, we ain't got enough time.
Well, I'm Santa Claus, I got red on, tell me.
Obviously with the deputies, we appreciate council's support that we've gotten over the years since 2013. Gosh, y'all been able to add, we've added a good number of personnel. I've shared with you before the 1.5 officers for every 1,000 citizens is kind of the standard and where we're at on that. But I certainly hope that if we see how the money comes from the state this year, at some point in time, we can consider adding some personnel to our budget this year, depending on what you get from the state. I know we started out July 1 this year with the same as we did, July 1 of last year. And I understand that, certainly not knowing what you're going to get from the state. But, there were some other requests that we'd put in for this year, and Ms. Brock was planning to fund those, but we realized that's kind of been put on hold as well. Our SWAT team vest.
Talk to us about the SWAT team vest, Mike. Tell us what the difference is.
Well, SWAT team vest is a little higher grade than a regular deputy vest. It can stop a higher caliber bullet because they're in the more dangerous situations. Their regular vest, $500-600 for a deputy. SWAT vest, you're looking, I think priced them lately $1,500-1,800 a vest. But we'd put in, Ms. Brock had given us some funding for that. Obviously, we had to cut back on account of not knowing what we're getting in the local government fund. But those are set to expire this year, so we had asked for some replacements for those.
Let me ask you something, because obviously these vests are a hell of a lot better than the ones I wore. We need to look as a council, when you say you need vests to protect those guys going into a house, that's a no-brainer. I don't want to say, well, Wayne, you passed the budget and you wasted money on all this other stuff, and one of your good deputies, young kid, got shot, and somebody shot him with a .308 AP, in one side, out the other. I don't want that on my conscience. I'd rather piss off every bicycle rider in the county.
Yeah.
I don't want a deputy hurt or anything. You guys got a bad enough job. And if you need those vests, I'm sure Mrs. Brock, she's a smart lady. She ought to be able to. She can finagle, tell some apartments, look here, you ain't. We have to take some money away from you to give it to the sheriff, because your people ain't running into a place and getting shot at. You don't know what's waiting for you on the other side of that door. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mike. Go ahead.
And, you know, as we get near expiration, I'll be meeting with Ms. Brock. If, I don't know what the deadline on the local government fund is, but I'm sure we all know here hopefully soon, you know, what kind of money we're gonna be getting from that. But, you know, those were, you know, our biggest need would be the personnel. You know, salaries going forward, sure. You know, we're getting close. Like I say, we appreciate the raises over the last 2 years. It's got our starting salary up, and we're closer than we've ever been to being competitive, you know, as far with other agencies. We're not quite there, but, you know, that's, you know, probably need to make you aware, you know, as last week, all the sheriffs, we met, our General Assembly is looking at some state mandates across South Carolina for public safety. Not a lot of them are going to affect us because we're already doing them. But for some smaller agencies, it may very well affect their ability to remain law enforcement agencies. But, you know, part of the consideration would be the starting salaries across the state for law enforcement officers. So don't know where that discussion will go, but that's part of the police reform that our General Assembly is looking at. There's several other state mandates that they're looking at. They're possibly talking about incentivizing accreditation. I'm probably going to go forward with seeking to be an accredited agency. Hadn't done it so far because it pretty much takes some personnel to manage that. You have to have an accreditation manager. But, you know, we'll see in talking with our delegation. I will tell you they're on board on the state level. I haven't talked with Senator Graham or Senator Scott, or well, I know Congressman Duncan's on board, but as far as qualified immunity, no one's in favor of doing away with that in South Carolina that I know of. You know, we'll see. Thomas Alexander has sponsored bills in the past for what David's talking about, and he can't get any traction. So our delegation's on board with that. But Senator Alexander has actually sponsored legislation, but he can't get it through.
What happens to it, Sheriff?
It dies in committee, or, you know, there's several reasons that legislation can be stopped.
Can you get me the names of those committee members where I can contact them?
I can. You know, so it's not as much contacting our delegation as it is other people throughout the state.
I know a lot of people
So
down in Columbia.
Yes, sir.
I'll do what I can.
And
I'll do
know
whatever I can for you.
contacts in Beaufort as well, so.
Yes, sir.
But that's pretty much it.
Mr. McCall, just a point of clarification for the public so there's no confusion. I know you continually touch on the bicycle race, that council's funding bicycle races and not funding officer stuff. That's tourism money that's collected separately from tax money. So council is not making the decision to not fund something that is needed versus a bicycle race. That's done through ATAX. I just wanted to give a little clarification so there wasn't confusion to the public saying, why are y'all funding this and not something that's needed? So this comes from general taxes, where the other accommodations tax has specific expenditures, because you can't spend accommodations tax on that. It'd be great if you could, but you can't. So that's where those are tourism dollars that are spent, that come through that committee that we all vote on.
Yeah.
So
How
it's
about
not,
it? We've spent money on studies, the $6,000 lady up with the flying cars. John ain't been able to buy a flying car yet. That was $6,000 for that little fiasco that night she gave the presentation. Things like that. We need to look closely. I use the bicycle as just a general thing.
I just don't want confusion.
Yeah, I understand
I
that.
get calls from people, why are y'all funding bicycles and not that? And that's two different money, that's two different.
But I have issues with spending money on other things. I done faced guns before from the other side. And these guys, I got drafted. I wasn't no volunteer for this damn thing. So these guys are volunteers. They're doing the best they can. And anything, when he comes up or Scott Crime comes up, they say we need something, We don't care whether we gotta do something else, we gotta give them what they want. Cause I don't wanna put my house out with a garden hose, and I damned if I'm gonna sleep with an M16 rifle, and somebody come around, is that weapon charged? We always tell them, yeah, it's paid for by the government. I don't wanna do that no more.
Well, in the last 2 years, we've done things at council that has absolutely been the best thing from the fire side of things and from the police side of things that has been missing. So I think,
But he said, Julian, he's saying he need those vests. Now, if he needs those vests, he gotta have the vest. We can't.
and I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not saying anything against the vest. I'm just trying to keep the right information out there to the public, so when they're looking at government and what we're doing and what we're not doing, it's not bicycle races and versus bulletproof vests. So we're doing great stuff, and we're doing it. We need to continue investing on that, and I think that's very good at what you're doing too.
But we've spent money on other things that didn't, the flying cars. I ain't got one, John can't find a flying car, things like that. It's only a small, it wasn't but $6,000, but we need to say, would $6,000 buy 1 or 2 vests? Would $6,000 give us, maybe that deputy needs something that might make his job easier, because they got a hell of a job, these guys. The firemen too, I ain't gonna leave the firemen out. Who wants to sit around and wait to throw your life on the line in the middle of the night putting out a house fire? These people need to be appreciated, and by appreciating them is give them what they need. Everything else, I've said before, everything else other than public safety and law enforcement is just icing on the cake. That's all it is. And that's the hard facts. The primary core goals, and this is something in Columbia, and everybody says this, is public safety and fire, and public safety, law enforcement, fire protection. That's our goals. And then it falls down to fresh water and health and welfare of the people after that. And that's why I'm going into this big tirade. Yes, I'm wrong for talking about the bicycles, but it's easy for me to say because I hate them anyway. But we need to, when the sheriff or Scott Crime comes up and says, hey, I need this or I need that, these guys, when you pick up 911, you want them to say, yeah, I'm on the way. I got the goods. I'm going to put your fire out. You have a heart attack. Maybe you sure as heck want Scott and one of his guys to come over there and save you. You have a heart attack. That's all I'm saying. So.
If I may make a note on that, since we do have 1 second and the chairman of our Budget and Administration Committee is here. Sheriff, you mentioned that we should have a heads up. It looks like we may know something mid-September or so. If that's the case and the numbers from the state come in affirmed and we can confirm what our dollars are looking at coming at local government fund and state mandated offices that the county operates and requires here, there may be a request for supplemental budget appropriations. And not a tax increase, nobody said that, but there may be a request from several departments for supplemental budget appropriations once we get a firm grip on those numbers coming in for the 2021 budget year.
Okay. The next thing is this, we're gonna make this real fast because I want Scott, I've been pushing Scott Crime off in the last couple of meetings to give him the short end of the stick, so we're gonna give him the next half hour. Discussion regarding food donations to local nonprofits. And it's come to my attention, I talked to the county attorney about this. I was in Ingalls the other day, and I'm just using the example because it's easy to be going there. And they pushing, and one of the clerks was pushing the basket around, taking boxes of cookies, whatever, just throw it in the basket. So I asked a friend of mine's wife works there. I said, why they just throwing them in? She said, oh, that's old stuff, they're gonna throw it out. I said, well, let me ask you something. Why can't we donate it? She says, it's our policy. I said, well, I'll talk to the manager. I go up front and talk to the manager. Manager told me, well, it's corporate policy. We gotta throw it out. I said, wait a minute, we can't take in the deli, when y'all get through with, you take all that stuff from the deli, just rake it off in the can. We can't give it to Lakeview, Julian's Charity, what is it, the food, Julian, what is that?
Daily rest.
Daily Rest. All right, we can't, and so I'm asking, give me some advice here, Ms. Brock. Do we, as a council, do we try to contact the corporate structure? Is that the way we want to do this, or how we do it?
I'm going to channel Mr. Root.
Mr. McCall, oops, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yay!
All right, Mr. McCall, if I could.
Mr. Root, you're going to have to
We
yell. We
spoke-
cannot hear you.
All right, how can you hear me all right now?
Not really.
All right, well, go ahead and just channel me, Ms. Brock, and do your best. Well, put me on a phone for the next meeting.
Okay, we'll try that.
You gotta
Can everybody
remember,
hear him
we don't
enough?
have, yeah, they can hear out there. We don't have any speakers here.
Right. So essentially, Mr. McCall, I think what you would want, the administrator and the county attorney working together or separately, just somebody to get this done for you, is for us to reach out to the corporate office and offer them our time and expertise in helping get them in touch with local food banks and or charities that may be able to benefit from the food waste that is going to a waste stream that we deem unnecessary. Now, obviously, for their corporate policy, I've read online that lettuce actually can be a terrible thing. So we'll allow them to make their choices on what they would like to donate. I do know of another relatively large chain grocer that does donations within the zip code that the store is in, and it doesn't have to go through their corporate stuff. So I think Mr. Root and I would be happy to help to see what we can help get moving forward with a donation for anything there.
We dealt with this issue, someone donated a warehouse in Spartanburg for Walmart to take damaged goods, like damaged pack of diapers and things like that. And it goes to this donation center. And we approached them about food, and they said there was so many legal issues about getting sued if it's past the expiration date that's what kept them from donating food.
Reason I brought it up, 1 minute I'm walking by and I can buy that thing of cookies, see? A little box of cookies. And then the next, a half second later, it's no good, throw it out. That's what I couldn't get through my thick head. Why is it 1 minute the cookies are all right, and the next minute the cookies are no good?
And there may be things like Ms. Brock said that aren't, if they go bad, they just taste a little bit bad. But like I said, lettuce, there's lots of food. I mean, shrimp,
Yeah, lettuce.
lots, meat can go bad on you.
Right.
But if you have, what they had was in the deli, we got Lakeview Assisted Living. They had big old pans of grits. They just cooked. Well, and then they take, after breakfast is over, they just pour it out. Why couldn't they pour it into a plastic thing? We zip it on over to the Lakeview Assisted Living, say, hey, these people ain't got nothing out there. They live in, they need help. I'm all for helping people that need help. And maybe we make these old people's lives a little bit easier.
I mean, it's worth pursuing. I was just giving you examples of
so-
experience that we went through.
Somebody that's done this for years, David McMahon brought up something earlier. It's all about the lawsuit portion of it. So food has a certain shelf life, even prepared food has a certain shelf life. So Ingalls is actually a great partner in Oconee County for food banks and everything else like that. So they actually financially do that. And actually every grocery store around here does, even Aldi does. But the shelf life, once that is expired, it is a requirement for them to get rid of that for multiple reasons, especially on the food prepared. The amount of food that restaurants throw away, everything like that, it all comes down to the liability portion of it, honestly. To where back in the day, I mean, I think you'd be blown away at the amount of restaurants the amount of food that they have to throw away, especially buffets and stuff like that. But it's time. Everything is on a time for that, and that's their requirement. That's what their DHEC and inspection requirements are. So they honestly would give anything away, the amount of milk that they pour out, because of the expiration date on that. But all of that is done within a certain portion of if the expiration date is within, I think it's 7 days is what most of the ones that I've been around is. And during that 7 days, usually that is pulled off. Now, I don't know, I can't speak to Ingalls, but I could speak to Bilo back in the day when we used to do this. They would pull that off. It would actually go to a warehouse in Greenville and then would actually be picked up and distributed because they had a 7-day window. And most of these people that you're speaking of, that would be eaten in 7 days. So that's what they're trying to do and go and pull that off. But that the legal liability side of it is huge. And that's why a lot of places can't take prepared food. If you have a family reunion and you have tons of food left over, there's a lot of places that won't take it and can't take it because of that. So that's kind of the world that we live in today is they're getting sued. But again, Ingalls is a great partnership across Oconee County from everything that I've seen on their donation wise. And I don't know what the dollar figure is, but I know from what I have seen, they have done a good job. But that prepared food, it's all about liability.
I see people eating out of dumpsters.
I agree. I see it.
That's a bad side of me.
I don't disagree with you. And it's unfortunate that that's the way that is, but,
All right.
Would you guys like to entertain a motion to direct the county administrator and the county attorney and/or the county attorney to at least research this
Yes, ma'am.
as far as possible, to see what efforts we can help groceries, not just Ingalls in particular, but any grocers
Any grocery
in
store.
food donations?
I mean, it's easy to talk to Golden Corner and talk about their stuff, because that's what they usually do
I
a
can get
good
in touch
job
with
at
Mr.
grabbing
Finger.
those.
And we can
that's
make
right
sure
there
that we
at
can
the
just make the
expiration
contact
date.
between the grocer and the food service provider.
Need a motion, ma'am?
That would be preferable, yes,
I'll
sir.
make such a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next thing, we're running short on time. We were gonna talk about recycling, but Katie said one of the great Roman emperors couldn't be here today. So, Mr. Crime, I'm gonna turn it over to you, sir.
Good evening. Tonight, I just wanted to take the opportunity to come talk to you about a few of the projects we have going on so that the committee understands what we're looking at, and not for this year specifically, but in the future, because it does account for a significant amount of money. First one is the air packs. Our air packs are coming due for replacement. And when I say coming due, that is needs to start in 21-22 with a completion by 23. In doing so, that is 837 cylinders, 330 air packs. One of the issues is with the new cylinders, DOT has put a 15-year stamp on them. They are not allowed to be in a vehicle after that period, with some exceptions that we're trying to work and going through. So that last purchase, $2.2 million to replace those air packs, will be coming due in the years to come. And as the years go by, last year it cost us roughly $13,600 to flow test them, required by the regulation to keep those packs in service. And then also with that, there was 6,600 in repairs for those packs. And then we lost 3 to deadline that weren't repairable for a cost of $15,000 loss as those packs get older. So with those packs aging, our concern is, again, we have to have them to go into fires, and they're going to need to be in a replacement plan. I bring that up now because the second item is actually the Assistance to Firefighter grant. We're in the process of writing this grant. That grant can be up to $2 million. We do not know exactly how many we will have at this time and how many qualify, as we are presently going through each air pack, making sure they qualify. There's some stipulations that we're allowed to apply for a pack per seat in a vehicle, and those things that we have to apply for. So we presently are going through that process to apply for next year's grant. That actually gives us 2 years to apply and receive that. So even if we don't get next year's grant, we actually have 1 more year to evaluate. We can actually take the same application. They will tell us kind of what they said no for, whatever that may be, and hopefully update it to have 2 chances to apply for that grant. With that money, the biggest thing is the match. It is a 10% to 15% match with that, which we will have to go to council with, as that is not presently in the budget when it comes to that grant for that amount as we move forward. So we're trying to look at those high ticket items and try to make sure that we do the best with the county money, getting grants and those to replace that big ticket item. If in 2 years we are not successful, we are looking at most likely $2.4 million replacement program with those. And some options in that is I'm trying to educate myself in all of our options when it comes to that amount of money all at once as we move forward. So the AFG, again, Assistant Firefighter, we're hoping for. One of our fire departments, I believe 3 years ago, received a fire truck on the AFG. So we are eligible for the county, and we're doing it as a regional grant. And we've been working with all the different stations across the county to show support as we move forward with that program. So this committee, so you know about it, if we have to immediately go to council for that extra allotment as we move forward, if that grant award letter, or I should say that grant support letter is required when we do that application, it will be later on this year. But I wanted to make sure you knew about it, that what we are trying to work on with that big amount of money as we move forward. The next update is the 6 fire trucks. We have met with the vendor. They are moving forward that we are doing a lease purchase on. We have had a few changes from the plans in that a few things were not correct in the original specifications. But presently with those changes, we are actually under budget. And we're able to actually find a couple things. There were 2 sets of ladders for every truck, which in turn allowed us to make the change and correct the fire truck without an increase in the budget of those fire trucks as those move forward. And those are hopefully delivered February, March. As everyone knows, COVID is affecting everything. And the factory had originally hoped to have them late December. And they're pushed back a little bit in their production presently for that. So we hope to have a delivery date soon of actually sometime, we're hoping February. But with everything in COVID, we all say, things are getting delayed. So with that, there were 3, the actual replacement plan for our vehicles, which was presented 4 years ago to council. We are actually going back and looking at that, trying to make sure that it is complete and correct when it comes to years and required replacement because of ISO. We are in the middle of ISO again. ISO chose not to do anything during COVID, so they're doing basically a virtual. Everything we've done so far has been filling out questionnaires, doing all the data part, and having video conferences. And we're well into that program. And as we work for that, but the replacement plan specifically may have to address any of those issues that are found from that program. Those 3 would have been in the budget if we had gone through, hopefully, to keep us on that plan. But again, we're trying to address it in a whole to make sure that the air packs being one of them fits in that capital plan. The plan actually has the year wrong originally that was presented, and we want to make sure that as we shuffle those vehicles, we can replace them appropriately. At the same time, we don't leave something on the table in that we don't have air packs as we move forward with that big capital plan for emergency services. So that plan, I hope that we can have something in a formal to bring back to you with some of the corrections with some of the grants and stuff that we have. Some of the small vehicles, it looks like we're gonna be able to get, two, smaller vehicles, squad-style vehicles on grants this year that will be able to replace some of those aging. We had bought some used vehicles that are now actually aging out from the used vehicles. So we're hoping to secure those two grants and help us with the fleet maintenance. And one thing we haven't done is when we did a replacement or we bought a used vehicle, sometimes it wasn't always put back in the replacement plan, which leaves us short when it comes time to replacement. So we're working through all that as it comes to vehicle replacement. The last thing on the agenda, and then anything else you would like, fire stations. We built a bunch of substations and they had a front gravel pad in the front. With the excessive rain we've had this year, we've found the Achilles heel with gravel in front of a fire station. And that is constant wash, constant repair, and different things, which is being done. The first of 5 upgrades will start, actually has already started, they started digging yesterday, to the Holly Springs Station. That is a pad out front and then a parking area that actually the department is going to be paying for out of the money that they receive through the county's amount to them out of 2.9, the 20 fund, and also their own donations fund. They're going to be doing that. This money was already in the budget from years ago when we built those stations. So it's not a new expense. It's money that was just rolled over from the stations themselves that did not get done. We're looking at systematically going through each one of them to try to go ahead and get these pads in place so that when they pull a fire truck out, when they clean fire hose, when they do that after they've used these stations, it's not in gravel. Sometimes they're doing it inside their station, which isn't always the best thing to do. But Holly Springs is the first one. I've gotten that one moving underway. We hope to move to Whetstone in Mountain Rest shortly after that. And we're working through that process to go down through Corn Shiloh, Picket Post, Village Creek, as we look at that. Once we finish the pad of each one, and the cost that incurs throughout, we are going to reassess the most need for all the other stations we had built, with hopefully some of the remainder money that was left over from those buildings to see what can be done to do the best we can systematically as we move forward to upgrade those stations. But I wanted to come to you tonight to make sure you're up to date on some of the things that we're working on moving forward. We have a lot going on with emergency services, but those are some of the big ticket items that actually cost money. I wanted to make sure you were aware of as we continue. And if you have any questions about them, we are working forward and we're trying to get some of the stuff the fire stations have asked for taken care of.
Well, Mr. Crum, I want to thank you. My replacement, Mr. Durham, he's the same as I am. He supports you and the sheriff totally. There won't be any wavering as far as District 2's policy concerning you, your fire or law enforcement. It'll be the same. And thank you tonight. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've been told by Katie we got to adjourn early. Is that right, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?